Bailout finally passed the House this afternoon, and a conveniently pre-printed version was immediately signed by President Bush. In our third story on the countdown, this came a little late for 159,000 of John McCain's fundamentals, as he calls American workers in a language of his own invention that occasionally sounds like American English. On the morning of September 15th, Senator McCain declared that the fundamentals of the U.S. economy were strong. That was the very day Lehman Brothers and Merrill Lynch went belly up, and the Dow Jones went belly down 4.4% on the close. It was the afternoon of September 15th that John McCain said what he meant was that American workers were the strong fundamentals. Today, this dubious news: it was during the month of September that the American economy saw the biggest loss of jobs since March 2003. The total this year now 760,000. Another measurement of employment, the percentage of discouraged workers, the ones who are not even trying to find new jobs, rose to their highest level since April 1994. And the impact on the Republican campaign inspiring something of a mixed message tonight. McCain's camp taking a hint from a double-digit dip in the polls in Michigan, suffering terribly from the economic crisis, of course. It pulled most operations out of the state. Back to the bailout, John McCain's campaign further damaged with George Bush out from under the radar, according to an unnamed aide who spoke to Politico.com. Part of the problem for us in the last 3 weeks has been a president on TV almost every day who had been MIA for the past 6 months. If you're talking about the political benefit of getting a deal, well, hopefully you'll see less of the president. Alas, today, after signing the bill, Bush appeared before cameras. He thanked Nancy Pelosi, John Boehner, Steny Hoyer, Roy Blunt, Barney Frank, and Congressman Spencer Baucus of Alabama. No mention of John McCain. Should not go without mentioning that the national debt topped $10 trillion on the last day of last month. Let's turn out to Craig Crawford, MSNBC political analyst and columnist for CQPolitics.com. Good evening, Craig.
Yeah, McCain folks must wish Bush is hiding out with Cheney wherever he is.
But Paul Krugman said here the other night that there's not a thing to do, even this bailout, to loosen up credit quickly. It's 5 weeks and a weekend until the election. Can the economy even seem to be improving enough? Can the issue get further enough out of people's minds to bail out McCain's campaign to any degree on this subject?
Yeah, Paul was downright scary. I saw him the other night. You hear that a lot. And no, I think the answer is no. There isn't enough time. Even the administration's giving themselves a lot of time. They're talking about no real result trickling down to average people for another year, like this time next year, which is convenient for them since they'll be gone. This bailout does feel like, trying to pull a car out of a ditch and then find out it's out of gas. I mean, you're making progress, but you're still not going anywhere.
And to that point, in terms of getting President Bush off the radar, that would be great for McCain, but are the voters going to react to the bailout the same way Wall Street did today? I mean, as soon as that passed, stocks had been up. Everybody in the stock market sighed in relief, and they looked around at the less urgent economic news, and they saw how bad it was, as your analogy is. They've discovered that the pulled-out car hasn't got any gas in it, maybe it doesn't have an engine, and the stock market went down. Is that going to be the public's reaction to the economy, regardless of what happens and where Bush goes off that radar screen?
Yeah, Keith, the problem I see is I spent last week in Appalachia along the West Virginia border, and one day I spent just talking to small business owners, and late last week they were just then beginning to actually feel the effects. I mean, I talked to one small business owner, runs a shop, who had just talked to his banker that day and learned he was going to have some problems getting credit he normally got to make his payroll. I mean, so as they are seeing the politicians congratulating each other and patting themselves on the back, they're starting to feel the real effects of this thing, and it's not in sync.
What is happening with this campaign in Michigan? I mean, yesterday, while everybody was fixed on the debate, the McCain camp let it leak out that other than the radio ads, they're basically pulling the TV ads, direct mail out of the state, and a lot of staffers out. Today, Governor Palin said she wants to, quote, go get back to Michigan. Are they just going to send her just for the hell of it, or what's happening with the Republicans in Michigan?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's been out of the loop as a running mate or a vice president since Franklin Roosevelt didn't tell Truman that he was building an atom bomb. The idea that she wouldn't know about this and then would be publicly talking about it the way she did does not suggest a campaign that's organized. But I always thought Michigan was something they would not be able to sustain, going all the way back to the Republican primary when John McCain in that primary stood up in front of auto workers and said, "Your jobs are gone and they're not coming back." That was the kind of straight talk that probably didn't help him too much. By the way, he campaigned his last day for that primary at a funeral home, which might be telling us something.
Well, obviously, I presume he would pick a different venue for the debate on Tuesday had he the choice. But I mean, are there any early indicators on the economy and how both of the candidates plan to approach it in that next presidential debate next week?
The Obama folks are telegraphing a plan to really focus on McCain's health care proposals, in particular taxing employer-paid health care benefits, making that taxable. They are planning to make sure that every voter in at least every battleground state is going to know about that plan. So I think you'll hear Obama talking about that. For McCain, it sounds like call 1-800 for the hits of the 80s. It's all about Democrats are tax and spend, tax and spend. That's what he's been saying so far, and that seems to be all they can come up with to hit Obama.
Craig Crawford of CQPolitics.com and MSNBC, when we're lucky enough to have him. As always, Craig, great thanks. Have a good weekend.
You bet.